off on the right track today. Or maybe it'll just help you recalibrate. Take your mind off all the stress that's going on around you. Come on, you ready? Let's go.
Living out loud, living out loud. Loving out loud, loving out loud. Laughing out loud, laughing out loud. I want the world to know that I'm blessed. Hey, oh.
Who headed us was Robert Demetrius Griffin, and
Okay.
I don't know if you know. And then after that was a young man named Sean McPhail. But we were quite good. I mean, we and then we affiliated with Hezekiah Walker,
Okay.
James Hall. So I'm during those times.
Okay. Cool.
You know, like the late 80s and 90s. Brooklyn Tab had a bad choir too.
Oh yeah, Brooklyn Tab's ridiculous.
Yeah.
No
They
doubt.
had a bad choir
Absolutely.
too.
Absolutely.
So it's a mixture, you know, because my mom, what I heard at home, you know, was a lot of BB and CC, you know what I mean, growing up, Clark Sisters. But I experienced the big choir scene and, you know, those musicians that played for like Hezekiah Walker, a lot of them went to LaGuardia.
Okay.
They, you know, that was where I experienced that. But at home was, you know, more like BB and CC, like the new stuff, you know. So
Okay, I got you.
yeah.
Got you.
And then I went to junior high, and all of those. I studied classical music, so I was classically trained as well.
Right.
So it was a different, you know. And then trying to understand my voice and where do I fit?
Where do you fit in? Right.
Exactly.
Yes.
So
Yes.
yeah, it was a lot, you know. But
I'm with you.
I'm thankful.
Yeah.
You know. Oh, and also where I first started was at St. Mark's with Bishop Townsley. That was very first.
Oh wow. Okay.
Wow.
Very first.
Right.
That was children's choir. That was
Wow.
That's awesome.
So
That's awesome. So, all right. So listen, I think I'm gonna put something on my calendar for later on that we could come back and really, really dive into this, because this conversation, we could go on and on for a while. And if there's somebody that you know that you would like to join this conversation, please let me know. I'd love to have them on the show. But as we move on, first of all, thank everybody that's watching live. I see all your names there. I really appreciate you tuning in. I'm gonna shift. Okay. So can you see this screen?
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so you see the first, let me move this out of the way. You got Kurt Franklin, Tasha Cobb, of course. Kurt Franklin won at 88%. Travis Green against Donald Lawrence. Donald Lawrence won it 76% to 24%. Edwin Hawkins got CeCe Winans, 76%. And Donnie over Dietrich Hatton, 71% to 29%. That one sort of went how I expected it to go. Do you guys have any thoughts on these results?
No, they seem fair.
They seem fair, right? Okay. All right. So let me see if I can move on to the next screen here. Okay, bracket number 2. The man that dominated our conversation last week, Andre Crouch, 88% over Brian Courtney Wilson. Marvin Winans, of course, 88% over Kiera. This one was very close. Smokey Norfolk over Shirley Caesar. But like I said, I think some people came in after our conversation last week with some late votes, and Shirley got 53% over Smokey. Does that surprise any of you guys?
It doesn't surprise me. I don't think it's accurate because I don't think Shirley wrote most of her music.
Okay.
You know?
Okay.
So, but I understand people they voted for whose music they recognize, and they recognize Shirley Caesar more so than Smokey.
Exactly.
But my issue, if you go to the last one, Thomas Whitfield against Jonathan McReynolds. I know Thomas Whitfield is considered the maestro, because of what he brought in. He brought in a lot of classical sound and stuff into the gospel music. But I came in late. I didn't get to speak up for my man Jonathan McReynolds. Now, you and I have had a conversation before. How I feel about Jonathan McReynolds.
Yes,
I think he is one of the more gifted songwriters in any genre. You're talking about R&B or
I agree.
or whatever.
Yeah.
I think what his gift is incredible. He's a phenomenal songwriter, and I'm sorry I came in late and didn't get a chance to speak up for him. Not that it would have swayed anybody, but Jonathan McReynolds is, I believe he's on par, or I can't say he's Andre Crouch yet as far as his songwriting ability, but he reminds me of Andre Crouch, of the way he's able to write songs with a gospel message that is not necessarily, doesn't sound gospel, but it has crossed over appeal without giving up the message. And his message is definitely gospel, but it just has such crossover appeal, and it's just beautifully written. And his topics and the way he talks about things and the way he's an incredible writer.
So I don't think enough people really appreciate that skill level to be able to keep your gospel Christian message, and he doesn't go just to like generally it would be like, okay, I'm gonna be an inspirational artist, right? And I'm gonna write inspirational songs. But he really does keep the basis of his Christian faith in his music. He doesn't beat people over the head with it. He is very creative in the way he approaches a song, tells a story. What I love, I like songwriters that can take an everyday situation, everyday story, and weave it in a way that pulls people in. Because now you don't necessarily have to know or follow Christ to appreciate what I'm talking about. Yeah,
exactly. He's unapologetically churchy without without sounding churchy.
Right, exactly.
His topics, I call him I told you before, I call him the James Taylor of Christian music.
Yeah, that's I love that analogy. I love it. I like that a lot. Kim, are you familiar with Jonathan's music?
Not too familiar. I just the C3 saying move on over.
Yeah.
Make room.
I thought that was quite that's what caused me to go and look and check out some of his songs. And I agree with you. He is very, his wording, his phrasing, the choices that he makes when he's singing, it keeps you at the edge of your seat.
It does.
You want to, he's like inviting you into his prayer closet at certain points, in the song. He's just right on, and you can definitely tell he's hearing from the Lord, so he's pretty awesome.
So Randy, are you familiar with Jonathan McReynolds?
Yes, I am. I love the brother. And for me, I love singers who minister to you. And I believe I can hear, you know me, man. I don't like people that do a whole lot of fanfare, riffing all over the place and stuff like that.
Right.
It drives me crazy sometimes, especially if you don't know where to place it and how to place it.
Right.
But for me, I think Jonathan is, I could just sit and listen to his music. I listen to his whole album over and over and over and over. And it ministers to me. I could really feel his heart. It's not just that he just singing songs and stuff like that. So when I'm listening to, Make Room and stuff like that, it really helps me to understand, this whole thing that, where we are and stuff like that.
Yep.
And so that's what I listen to when I listen to for a singer. I really, I like the simplicity of stuff. I'm more about a person that's more simple. Like I always tell you, I believe there's power in simplicity, and you don't have to be go through a whole lot. So when I listen to his stuff, and like I said, you know, my girl that you said didn't make it, Anita Wilson.
So that's
Not
the
because
funny
she's
thing.
not a great, you know, but she's a great songwriter, but she really takes the time. I mean, if you really listen to her music, I mean, you really come away with something from her because she ministers to you, you know. So that's how I love Jonathan McReynolds, man.
So
I love his new CD that he had just got out. So if you haven't heard it, people, just check it out. He got a new one
Randy
out.
be on it, boy.
yeah, for real. So now I got two. Now he's told me twice, and Vaughn told me about this before. Vaughn told me to go and get Jonathan McReynolds' CD.
Yeah.
Vaughn, I had muted you for background music, but if you want to chime in, just unmute yourself, all right? For background sound, I mean. So unfortunately, Anita, you told me about, Jonathan, you told me about, and you'll see later, both of them are out of the Super Bowl. So
That's
I tell people to go back and listen again.
maybe next time. Maybe next time
I'm
they'll make
telling
it out of
you,
the
you
first
will be
round.
blessed, man.
So that really is like a North Carolina or Duke getting knocked out in the first round of the playoffs. Jeff, are you familiar with Jonathan?
Well, I think when we started this conversation, my brother, I think I was telling you a story about Marvin Winans.
Uh-huh.
Man, Marvin did a song once, and he introduced Jonathan McReynolds as the next Andre Crouch.
Wow.
I couldn't believe. I didn't know who the brother was.
Wow.
But for Marvin Winans to put that tag on this brother, I was blown away. And then they sang a song. They did a song, and it was what everything that you said. That's what the song was. It had the mixture of words. It was melodic. It had a lot of emotion, a lot of feeling. But if you really didn't know, you wouldn't know you was listening to gospel.
Right.
It was that, you know, it was that kind of song. It kept drawing you in until you were just like, wow, this dude is great.
He's phenomenal.
But let me tell you, if there is ever a story to be told for any of us, I think Jonathan McReynolds has the right story. Because Jonathan McReynolds lost on Sunday's Best.
What? I didn't even know he was on Sunday's Best.
That brother, he said, Donnie, well, that's the truth. He wouldn't even get to like the first round.
Wow.
Then he turns around with this season with Melvin Crispell.
Uh-huh.
And he's a judge. You see what I'm trying to tell you?
Yes.
And he testified to it.
That's a
and
story.
he encouraged the other artists. He said, you guys are just like me, because I didn't make it. But now look what God elevated me to.
Right.
So, you know, if you do what you do because you love it, you never lose.
Right.
Yeah. And that's the feeling that I get from him whenever I hear him, listen to his music. He's just phenomenal. I mean, I love lyricists. And the other thing is, I mean, he's a great lyricist, but vocally. So Randy, you talk about how a good vocalist knows where to place what and where to go. I think he does that masterfully with his songs. He just knows he doesn't have to do a whole lot all the time. He just lets the tone and the presentation of what he does do the work for him. And he clearly is an incredible vocalist because he can take it there if he wants to, but he doesn't. There was one, we used to laugh at home, me and my family, about, you know, preachers, when they get up to preach and they start out hooping, they haven't even built up to it yet. So Jonathan has a way of building his songs up. He doesn't have to scream at you at the beginning of a song. He brings you into the song, tells you the story, gets the juices flowing, gets your mind thinking, and then takes you to that incredible choruses, incredible messaging, and he leaves you with that. He doesn't have to beat you over the head with it. Reg, are you familiar with Jonathan?
Man, big time.
Okay.
I was around when he first came out, when he was like a little boy, pretty much. But I'm not surprised that Marvin Winans would tag Jonathan McReynolds. We talked about Marvin Winans. He's a lyricist.
Right.
And Jonathan McReynolds is a lyricist. He writes his
Absolutely.
It's like Rakim tagging Nas.
Right.
And to Randy's point, in terms of riffing, Jonathan McReynolds is like the only one that he'll do a riff, and that riff will minister to you.
Yeah.
His riff alone will minister to you. You can feel the soul. It's not trying to get your attention to kind of like, oh my God, he hit that note. It's really like Kim says, he invites you into his prayer room, his intimate time. I think the reason why he has 41% is just because of his catalog. If there's any reason why he's not in there, it's because his catalog. He's not brand new, but he's new to the public, I guess.
Yeah, he's newer. He's newer. That goes back to what you guys were.
If his catalog was a little bit more extensive, his catalog is deep. It's deep,
right.
But it's not as extensive yet. Then that would have been a different number. You know,
so I think it goes back to what you guys were bashing me for last week. Said, what kind of matchups do you have here? Why you got this person against this person? And, you know, it's like, I think that's a perfect example, because as a songwriter, Jonathan definitely should have made it out of the first round. No doubt about it. All right, let's move on to this next one. Bracket number 3. Yeah, y'all see those numbers, right? Wow. Israel 94, BB 6. Wow. William Murphy. I was surprised at this one. William Murphy over Thomas Dorsey, 53 to 47%. And so I know Thomas Dorsey because of basically his legacy, but I was very surprised that William Murphy came back and took this one, because he was behind when we were talking last week. Does that surprise you guys?
Yeah. Not to me.
Okay.
You know, Thomas Dorsey, there's a, you know, I think that it depends on the age bracket test know of Thomas Dorsey and those that know of William Murphy.
Okay.
So being that we now in this age bracket where people know William Murphy and know this material, they really don't know about Thomas Dorsey. You know, some of these people don't even know about, you know, Precious Lord, Take My Hand. You know,
even though
talk a lot of stuff
we've
about
sang it all our
so
lives.
they don't know it. So that 47% that he got probably was more of an older generation that know of him.
Right.
And then the newer, the younger generation that know more of William Murphy was what pushed him over. So you're talking about different generations.
Got you. Then you got Twinkie Clark. I mean, I knew this was going to be a runaway, and I told you how much I love Ty last week. I think Ty is incredible. But Twinkie Clark ran away with that one, 82 to 18. And Walter Hawkins over James Cleveland. Let me see here. So that didn't surprise me at all. And let me go to this last one, because I don't want to keep you guys all night. Okay, and so this is going to be an interesting next round, guys. I'm going to tell you that right now. John P. Key over Rashawn Mitchell. We talked about that. He was going to win that. Timothy Wright came back. I think it was all of that Kojic talk last week, Darren. All that Kojic talk last week brought Timothy back, because he was losing last week. Anita had him, but he came back. He pulled it out. We talked about those choirs and how he was directing and those convocations, those Kojic convocations. So those Kojic people must have came back and put my man right over the top.
So I gotta blame Darian then.
Yes, you definitely blame Darren.
I gotta blame Darian for my girl losing.
Yeah, she got pushed out in the first round. It was a buzzer beater, dude. It was a buzzer beater.
Whoa, wait a minute. There's something wrong with the bracketing here. Okay. I'm gonna just throw that, because the bracketing is a little suspect.
Okay.
So it's the host.
Yeah. I didn't say that. I just said the bracketing. I didn't say that. I just said the bracketing. Yeah.
But first to know me, you know, I'm gonna tell the truth.
Okay.
Absolutely, absolutely, no doubt, no doubt. I expect that from you guys. I expect you to call me out, man.
But I think I think it's important that I want to highlight where Timothy and Anita is concerned. And I think Jeff may be able to speak to this, and maybe even Sister Kim. But Timothy found a niche, and he stayed in that niche. But I don't think we really got the chance to see the full potential of who Timothy Wright was. And those of us who grew up in Church of God in Christ will understand that, because Timothy would be more out front leading and singing, but Timothy Wright was a phenomenal musician. The man could play. Okay, he could play. He could play. So I don't think we got a chance to really see the full expression of his songwriting ability. And unfortunately, he's no longer with us, and et cetera, et cetera. But I believe his legacy lives through his sons, because they're phenomenal musicians.
So you spoke about this. You spoke about this last week, and I think what you're speaking to is not only that he left us earlier than anyone expected,
right?
But the fact that he was put in a position to where. So Darren, explain a little bit, because I don't know if Jeff heard from last week about how you explain he may have gotten stuck in this place of writing the more simple songs because of what he had to do with the convocations and so forth.
So I wouldn't say it was. I wouldn't say it was. He was stuck. I would say he just found that niche and stayed there.
Okay.
So Jeff, you remember now? Tim specialized in anchoring the music for the convocations and bringing people from different churches across New York State and assembling them quickly to be able to offer the music that needed to be offered for the convocation. And so there's a brevity and brilliance. There's a brevity and brilliance. And so he found a way to write these quick songs, so that these simple songs that could be learned quickly, but they did have depth, they had power. And I mean, when the convocation choir was singing, it was lights out, it was over. And nobody could work it musically like Timothy Wright could work it. Nobody. Okay. And so, and I think he stuck with that niche. And you know what's telling for me? When, I don't know if you all remember, there was a tribute that was done, and I believe it was on BET, and different artists were highlighting his music, and Kirk did one of his songs. And the way that Kirk did his song, to me, spoke to the potential that he had, because Kirk just took it a whole nother thing, and he just kept making tribute, and it was calling him the godfather of gospel music. So Timothy decided to stay with that, and that became his signature. But knowing what I know of him, okay, he's another one that they used to laugh at and kick off the organ. My mother came up in the same Reformation that he did in the Five Baptized Holiness Church. So mommy talks about that. But then when it was all said and done, nobody was laughing anymore.
Yeah.
Because, and he was another one, would go throughout the country. And I mean, he would take it by storm. I mean, people would they would go crazy, because again, that New York sound, it was just, they call it an urban gospel sound because it was so hard. I remember a preacher from Ohio came to our church one time. This is going back years ago, when I was the minister of music at my former church. And this preacher from Ohio came, and when he got up to do the praise and worship, when he got up to preach after praise and worship, he said, y'all's music is so intense, I don't know how you can take it. Because it's just our reality. It was just our reality. He said, I don't know how you can take it. He said, I just couldn't stand it. So there was just this intensity that really reflected what we had to deal with. And even now, when we look at how we're the epicenter of the virus and just really hard times, and I'm just wondering, it's going to be awesome what comes out of this. If we talk about Dr. Bernard, who we know recovered, thank God, from the virus, and he told his story. And I think that's symbolic of the resilience that's in New York. And I think it's going to be interpreted artistically and even musically. So
also, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So just, again, I think it was a thing that, just Tim found his niche and he worked it, but I really don't think we had the chance to see the full spectrum of who he was potentially musically.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I could say that before he passed away, I shared last week how I had an experience going to his church.
Amen.
And I think that you're absolutely right that there was a whole generation who was clueless, because I believe that a lot of the most powerful of ministries were always in the churches. It wasn't not everything was on vinyl or was on CD or was on.
Right.
You know,
Yes.
a lot of the most powerful experiences from churches were in the churches. When I went to his church and he played, he didn't go all in, because I think at that time other artists were being more, they were being kind of exalted at that time. Franklin, Mary Mac, all of them. So I went at a time where you didn't hear about his name that much, but I felt that power personally in the church. Certain things you can't feel on an album, or you cannot feel on the tape.
Yes.
You have to be there. And that's the power of a choir sometimes. I mean, they're able to capture some of that now, not like they used to. But I mean, if you were there and you would listen to the vinyl or listen to the CD, you would remember how powerful it was. But if you weren't there, it's kind of hard to capture.
Yeah.
And I thank God I had that experience of his ministry before he went home.
Right, I would think, because most of the time they're trying to be commercial on vinyl, but when you're in the church setting, you can just worry about ministering.
Yes.
There was definitely a feeling when you would walk in his church. When you walk in his church, even before service started, even before anybody got up to minister or sing, there was something about the building.
The walls would sweat.
Exactly. You knew something was about to happen. Ministry was about to happen, and they truly did minister in song. We talk about that a lot, and we talk about crafting songs and so forth. Yes, we want to craft beautiful songs. We want them to be beautiful lyrics, and melodically we want them to be beautiful. But the ministry that would happen through the songs that were shared in his church, it was just phenomenal. I remember, even talking about it now, I remember the feeling that I had when I would walk in that church. It was just phenomenal. It really was incredible. Jeff, I'm sure you spent some time with him.
Well, it's a little known fact that when I was 16 and I was at King's Temple, I was 16. I asked my dad, I met Tim, I met him. And of course, in the convocation days, it was an honor. It would be a line of musicians waiting to get on that B3.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes.
And if Tim pointed at you to get on the B3, listen, that was like somebody just saying, listen, man, you are the next appointed one.
Yes.